Hello, dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Life of Love, where we gather to explore curiosity and living our life of the highest good and in love. And it not always is what we expect or romantic love. It's more than that. And I'm so happy to share these paradigms. And this week is no exception. We're having a wonderful guest, Hope Fitzgerald, and she's been in the field of helping people her whole life, but she has had a wonderful miraculous story of just enlightenment. And I can't wait for her to share with you her path and how she said yes, and her special superpower. And she's willing to share it with you because it's not something you have to go to India and study. This is something that's around you, and it's just beautiful. So I'm just really excited. She's an author. She wrote a book called The Infinity Wave: Mastering the Art of Love and Compassion and Flow, Love, Compassion, and Flow. And it's a beautiful guide. And so she's going to share some insight from that, but also she's a spiritual teacher, guide. She helps people find their passions and follow their dreams and connect to what they need. She's a dowser. Look that up if you've never heard of that. It's really cool. And she's also, she helps people with transitions as a death doula. I hope I'm saying that right. So, and also on her website, she said she's a death midwife. So I'm really excited to hear about that. There's so many things we're going to talk about. So I hope everyone can stick around to the end. I know this is going to be a very impactful and just wonderful episode. So thanks for being here. I appreciate my audience. I appreciate Hope being here, and welcome to Life of Love. Thanks for joining us, Hope.
Oh, thank you, Julie, so much, and hello to everybody. I'm really happy to be able to have a chat with you and with them, even though we can't see them right now. I trust that this will be enriching for all of us.
I think it would be really helpful for my audience to just get a little insight, because you're a counselor and you've been in the field. You knew you were going to help people. Like, it was very obvious from reading your bio and your introduction to your book that you've dedicated your life to helping people. But 2020 came and you took a catapult of spirituality, or I don't know how to say it. You were ascended, I guess. And I know a lot of people have had a lot of changes in their lives since then. So I just love stories. I love people to share how they took a time of transition and they made something out of it. And I think it gives other people hope and courage. So if you could share some insight about what you went through and how you experienced your water guides, your infinity wave. Yeah. So I'm just going to let you. I know you could talk for 3 hours about it, but
I'll try to shrink it down. Not to find fault, but this all started in 20, and yes, I had led a very spiritual life privately. I had my regular life, and then, like a side by side track, I had my spiritual life. And I'd been doing that since I was really a child, exploring all different kinds of philosophies and religions, exploring healing, uh, exploring even, you know, how to eat better, how to use herbs, all kinds of things. And I just found that for most of my life, if I talked about those things in a general public kind of way, people started to roll their eyeballs and not listen. Not everybody, but it's been a taboo subject for many people for a long time. Now it isn't, because we've had so many people go ahead of us who really have opened people's minds. Thankfully, I bow to them. But in 20, I had a very difficult personal year and family issues. Very tragic things happened. And I was feeling extremely depleted on all levels. You know, when you're physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually depleted is when illness can work its way in. So I decided I was going to go to a sound healing workshop, actually back to back weekends, and see if I could refill my coffers, which I did. And at the very end, the very last practice, I received some insight about why these things had happened, these dramatic things. that seemed to have nothing to do with me. But when I received my answer in the last practice, I was so grateful for the insight because it flipped the whole story and freed me in many ways. That in my mind's eye, I went prostrate on the floor and I said, it just sprang from me. It wasn't a mental thing, but in my mind, out it came. I am a willing vessel. Do with me what you will. That just, popped out. I didn't say it. It was all this was internal, but it was profound. And I went home and I felt delightful. I felt like I had cleaned my inner bowl. I was free of story. You could have called me any name. I would have answered. It was a blissful state. And then 3 days later, I was walking across my living room and then I had this vision standing right in front of me. It was a giant wall of water, a big wave moving towards me. Beautiful, not threatening. And there was kind of a byline I became aware of that this wave represented a push of evolution that was coming to the planet. And that if I chose to swim with it or surf it, things would go much better than if I resisted. Okay? Because, if you go to the beach and there are big waves and you resist them, boom, you're knocked down. So you have to learn to work with it. So then immediately that image changed to a sideways view of the wave. So this would present like the curling wave that you see a surfer come through the barrel, that kind of thing. So it looked like the letter C kind of. And this had a byline too. And it was, and I'm paraphrasing, but as the ocean water moves away from the shore and deepens into the seabed to create the crest, that's how the physics of a wave works, deepen into the earth, and that creates the wave. So should I, but this is now for all of us, leave your book learning on the shore. Leave all the things you think you know on the shore. Go to the earth, go to the wisdom keepers of the earth, dive deep into the earth wisdom, and then mix that with this incoming push, whatever this new wave thing was. And I was like, okay, this is all happening in a matter of moments. And fortunately, I had a very close friend in the room with me. And so I was speaking to her what I was seeing in real time. So I have a witness, thank goodness. Then that letter C, that wave that was kind of poised like this, started to fall back into the ocean, but it didn't just go straight back in the ocean like it normally does. It turned into this figure 8 of flowing water. And that had no byline. It hung out in front of my third eye, if you will, about this size for about 3 days. And I was just aware of it. I would go, it was kind of, it's funny when you see with your non-eyes, you're seeing with something else. It's perceptible, but it's not always tangible. Like you couldn't grab it, but it's there. Hard to explain. Psychic experiences up to this point, but I'd never had visions like this. I didn't know what to make of it. And after 3 days, I sat down with my dowsing rod. So for people who use pendulums, that's a form of dowsing. We won't go too deep into it right now. But I had been a dowser at that point for, 15, 16 years. And so I had a way of asking questions that I was very comfortable with that could really open up a landscape a little bit out of yes and no questions. Anyway, I came to understand that this figure 8 made of flowing water had a name that we could use to identify it called the infinity wave. That it is a very, very high dimensional frequency. It's a living frequency that embodies in its water that high level of love and compassion, a level so high that we on this planet are not usually in touch with that level. It's so pristine. The thing is that what I learned later is when we use this wave, which has this inherent love and compassion and this pristine level, it lifts us out of our 3D existence. It opens the field so that we're no longer captured in 3D. We have more access. And what it does, and I'm kind of skipping ahead, but what it does is it allows us to reach a better state, so that no matter what we're doing, no matter what we're saying, we're in a better state. That's the simplest way to say it. We go into a state of flow. We go into a state of love and compassion, and we don't have to manufacture it. We don't have to sit down and meditate for an hour and a half to get to that place of compassion. It's like an easy button to get us quickly to a state that will keep us in non-resistance. Remember that first image. Don't resist. Resistance is where the suffering lies. Okay. So we had this, and then I was told that I needed to, by my guides through my rods, dowsing rods, that I needed to create workshops about this starting in January. This was now early November 2010. And in January 2011, I was to start a series of workshops. And I said, no, I don't want to, because even though I really had been a leader in many ways, I've been a teacher, performer, director, yeah, lots of things. And I was comfortable with that. When it came to my spirituality, that was not where I wanted to be. It was my own private place. I didn't want to be in the front of the room. And I also always consider myself, and still do, as a student. So if and that, as soon as you put yourself in the front of the room, now most people think, oh, well, she's no longer a student, she's a teacher. And I didn't want that because I was still a student. Well, then I was reminded of the pledge that I made that last day of the sound healing workshops, that I am a willing vessel, do with me what you will.
Yeah, you
I,
said it. You put it out there.
I said that, didn't I? Okay. So if you ever feel called to say that, just, you know, be ready, because you will be used. You absolutely will. I did not know I had a mission. Boom. I immediately had a mission, and it changed my life dramatically. I also was not comfortable doing a workshop on something I knew nothing about. I immediately went to the internet and, like, well, let's look up infinity signs. Is it anywhere? No, it was nowhere. I know that's hard to believe today, but in 2011, no. Now, one of the things that initial image said when it said, this is representing a push of evolution, it said that we'll be wrapping around the planet and anchoring in at the end of 2011. So for that whole year in 2011, I'm looking in stores, I'm looking for the infinity sign in logos, in packaging, in jewelry. I'm looking everywhere because I know if something's coming to me, and I'm looking for validation, because
Mhm.
if something comes to one person, I know it's coming to the collective somehow. I can't be the only one, but I didn't see anything. And the other thing that I was hearing in these initial communications was it was about evolution. Evolution was not something that we talked about in 2010 or
Hmm.
2011. I promise you, I looked it up, and the only person, because I was thinking, well, this is a kind of evolution that isn't happening in the background. This is a kind of evolution that we're conscious about. I think that's what this is about. So I look up conscious evolution. The only reference I see is Barbara Marx Hubbard, and she had one little class or something on it, and I read about it. It wasn't what I was intuiting that this was about. I'm like, okay, well, we're I guess I'm going to figure out what to teach. And so I went back to when I was 21. I went to this wonderful place in northern Scotland called Findhorn. And it looks like Findhorn. It's one word, but it's pronounced Findhorn. It was a very magical community that I highly recommend everybody read the book, The Findhorn Garden. If you want to see, if you want to read about real life magic, tangible magic, read that book. And I was fortunate enough to go there. And when I did, it kind of blew my circuits open, and it launched me into a new level in terms of how I viewed the world. One of the things they taught there was a theory of evolution by Teilhard de Chardin, who was a 19th century Renaissance man. God, he did everything. He was a priest, but he was also an archaeologist. He was a philosopher, a long list of things that he was. And he had this theory of evolution. And for some reason, I had remembered it. And so I kind of pieced that together with the current science and the current people who are bringing science and spirituality together. And I kind of mushed something together anyway. But mostly I would sit down every week before the workshop at the end of the week, end of the month, and with my same friend, and I would sit down with my rods and pray to God that something would come through that would help me to understand what the heck we're doing here. Just imagine you get a vision about a figure eight made of flowing water. It has a name, but you don't know what the heck it is. And you're supposed to charge people and teach about it in a month or two. I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. And I was completely walking blind. And what that means, and why I'm mentioning this to your audience, is what I learned was that even with all my exposure to all kinds of spirituality, all kinds of methodology in this life and beyond, I still was in my mind. And my desire was to go from believing to knowing. And the way to do that is to be put into a situation like I was in, where I couldn't get at it through my mind. What was coming in was not going to be understood through my mind because it was something new. New spiritual concept? Is that possible? Doubting myself 100% the whole way, yet having to trudge forward blindly. So the lesson was, and still is, you can't, the universe cannot catch you if you're not willing to fall, if you're not willing to leap over the edge. It is in that blind tumble that you are rescued, you are held, you are guided, kind of like the infinity wave was clear, but perceivable to me, yet my eyes were also seeing. There's something else that is leading, that is informing. And when we can let go, when we can lose our minds and completely trust that this other guidance system can take over, that's when the miracles happen. That's when the true light bulb turns on. And I went into, so every week I sat down, these voices would come through that were not mine, very deep, very slow voices. And these practices would tumble out of my mouth. Now, until that time, I was not a fan of channeling because I understood at the time that that energy fields, our body's energy fields, will distort information coming in. And not only that, but our emotional bodies, the degree to which we want something to happen, adds to that distortion. So the trick, I discovered, is to get yourself completely out of the way. For me, it's moving to the left. And it's kind of like seeing a hollow tube come in place. And then words, for me, words dropped into that hollow tube. And I would observe them. I could see the words. I would speak the words. And every now and then a word would come that I didn't like. And I'd try to shove it away. And it would keep dropping in until I had to say it. So then I realized this is not about me. I just need to speak the words that are coming. Boom, 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 like this. This was initially. And then I realized, oh, I'm channeling. Whoops. Because the practices that emerged, 1, 2, 3, one per week, ready for the weekend, I could never have predicted. They used language I don't use, and they were beautiful, and they were something. I don't know. They were out of this world. So I went into that first weekend just shaking, quaking in my boots that either I'm going to be carted off at the end of this as a completely crazy person, or this is going to have meaning for people. Skip to the end of the story. After 3 months, I had done one weekend workshop. I dowsed for what I should do. One weekend workshop per month. 3 full weekends is the full workshop. Each month, there were 3 new practices. When I got to the end of this thing and looked back, I saw that all 9 practices were a step by step process for spiritual evolution. Everybody went in wanting something like that. And at the end, everybody had. People who were about to get divorced did not get divorced. People who needed jobs got jobs. People who were ill got better. But most importantly, everybody's joy quotient went skyrocketing up. And it wasn't just that it was for the weekend, which I was really looking for because everybody feels good after a weekend. It lasted, it had legs. And this 9-step process really, I stood back and went, wow, this is something. But I had to test it again. So I did another one and another one. So by the end of September, we had some people repeat the course because it was so impactful for them. And then we had new people, and so a few new practices came in as well. But it was the basis of those original 9 that by September, end of September, I looked back and I said, okay, I guess this is something. And that's how it all started. And then there were an incredible number of paranormal events that happened immediately preceding the wave coming in, during the first workshops, and for a year or so afterwards. And my first book is basically a handbook from the story I've just told, maybe a little more detail, and then how to use the wave, because that was my guide team has been on me for 10 years to get that book done, and I finally did. And I didn't want to write it. I was stalling. Oh my gosh. But I'm writing a second book that are all the paranormal events that happened, my out on a limb book that, when we start to evolve, consciously evolve, the world starts to look very different. And our perceptions change dramatically. Sometimes it can be a little unnerving, I would say. That's a good word for it, because we're used to seeing a particular way. And when we begin to see a different way, it rattles. It can be rattling. So my purpose in writing the second book is to say, it's okay. Hang in there. Just keep going. And you won't regret it. By sharing some of my experiences, I hope it's encouraging to others.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, I just love your themes that have driven your process. I mean, it's like surrender, embrace change, and then I thought it was really cool the divinity of 3. When you first saw it, it was like past, present, and future, and these guides were going to help you get there. It's a beautiful story and a testament to asking God to show how you can, show you how you can be your best self, to shine your light. And it is scary. So I applaud you, and very vulnerable. I remember when I was putting out my book, I'm like, are people going to still talk to me? Like, I was just like, I don't know. And then I wrote it and I was like, well, maybe I'll tell a couple people that I wrote this. I'll just put it on the internet and see who looks at it. And it's a big leap to just say, here I am, here's my story, and so I identify with that so much, and there's just so much wisdom and really, really great stuff. And I just, I'm curious about, the water, and the voices are low, like almost like a whale speech. It made me, when you said the low, slow voice, I immediately thought of Finding Nemo and the whales and how they talk. It's like so fun, and it's joyful and it's light, and And I mean, have you connected with any Atlantean energy or Lemurian, or do you think it's totally another dimension, like nothing of Earth?
No, it's not of Earth. And first of all, the infinity sign has been around forever. So it's a combination of the infinity geometry and the water. So the water is such a big part of this. Water isn't even fully understood at this, even today. Like scientists are like, well, it's this, it's that. What could it be? It's just so powerful. As we know now, with all the different studies that have been done, water carries memory. Water is conscious. I believe 100% water is conscious. I do the wave with water. I will wave the ocean. I will wave the rivers. I'll wave the water in my bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
I wave the water in my shower. I wave all water as much as possible, because that is imprinting the water with love and compassion. And the water goes down the drain and it goes out to many places. Well, now that water carries the memory of the infinity, of the love and compassion in this geometry. The geometry represents balance. It represents above, so below. It represents equality. It represents in the middle those. I'm going to show the picture if that's okay.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah, of course.
Okay, so where these cross, they don't touch. There's a gap. Okay, so that the flow is
Mm-hmm.
infinite. The flow continues like that. What we see here, we can call this the 0 point or the nexus point. We see a number of things. We see expansion and contraction, which is the natural flow of the universe. Everything expands, everything contracts. That's just part of the natural world. That's how it works. So we too are expanding and contracting. And you can see whether you turn it this way or this way, there's no judgment about where you are in the process. If you're in an expansion phase, that's fine. Then you're going to enter a contraction phase, and that's fine. Then you're going to go. And what's cool is wherever we are on the journey, you can douse, sorry to use that again, but you
Mm-hmm.
can determine where you are. When you know you're entering an expansion phase, then you know, oh, it's appropriate for me to be reaching out, be finding a new teacher, be finding a new book, be finding a new philosophy, be finding, all of these things. When if you find you're in a contraction phase, it might be time to integrate all that. It might be time to find stillness. And this can happen in a day or in,
Yeah.
right? It's an ongoing pattern happening on multiple levels all the time. So it's kind of cool to think of us. And that's the other part of it is it's always moving. We might feel stuck. We might feel stuck, but we're not. It's
No.
always moving. So
Mm.
that's comforting. That's so comforting. It is, we're always, this too shall pass, right?
Yes. Yes,
So,
it is
yeah,
so comfort. And water's soothing, like when you have stress and you take a nice bath and it helps you release that tension, or you bang your shin and you put ice on your shin and it helps the inflammation and helps your bones and your muscles feel better. And like you said, all the states of water, vapor, boiling, heat,
yeah,
cold, ice. And I have a book, The Elements of Water. It's like 800 pages and
yeah,
I'm totally into this. I can
yeah,
tell you, Hope, this is so in my wheelhouse. Like, I go out, I bless the water in my pool. And I never thought about I never knew about the infinity, and I do. I go out and I send love to the ocean when I see it. And I think about the water going down the drain, going into the city municipality. And we're all connected. We're all one, and water connects us all. It's
yes,
it's a symbol. It's evidence. It's like you said you wanted affirmation. It's the complete affirmation. I mean, water is life.
yeah, yeah.
I just adore
I
this
love
so
that you're
much.
into it so much, Julie. That's fantastic. I'm actually about going to do a podcast in a few weeks just about water. There's a
Hmm.
wonderful woman named Veda Austin. I don't know if you know.
Yes, with her pictures.
Yeah,
Oh, she's
I'm going to be
from New
doing it with
Zealand.
her. So
Huge. Oh my gosh, you're gonna have such a good time.
yeah, I'm really excited. But I've been in this water rabbit hole, so to speak. It's kind of
Mhm.
strange bringing together of metaphors there. But I took a deep dive, obviously, when this happened.
Mm.
And it was revelatory. And I fell in love. I fell in love with water, literally fell in love. And water has spoken to me. Water has, it's just been amazing. So I love that you're doing it. And I love that we're
Mhm.
talking about it and that your
Yeah.
audience starts to get, if they don't already know, that they start to get curious about it.
Right. And you talk about in your book, letting go of things that no longer serve you. And that's a huge practice for me. I get in the shower and I'm like, I ask the water to help
Yeah.
me. It's not just cleaning my body. I'm asking it to
Yes.
remove things from my aura that no longer serve me. And, it's just, it really is refreshing. And I never was really into that, but bless her soul, my mother-in-law would always be like, did you have a fantastic shower? And I thought that was like the weirdest thing she'd ever ask. I was like, why does she care about my shower? And then I realized she was connected. I mean, she was into mermaids. And as we're going through her estate and the things that she loved, she was very connected to water. So it's been in the last 10 years where I sort of connected with that. And just there's no coincidences. Things happen for a reason. And I just want to acknowledge the power of the symbol,
Yeah.
because our words have charge, our words have memories, and things that anything we say can be interpreted in a different way because our words are very. But you look at a symbol and that's all it is. You don't need the words. And even though you described it, contraction and expansion, but as a person tuning into a symbol, it gives you the purity of the message,
Yeah.
and it's universal. And that also brings us back into we are one.
I'm
It's
so
just,
glad you said that, because of the many things that have been told to me now over the years about the wave from my guide team. One is that this geometry cannot be distorted.
no.
So it's not a religion in and of itself, but it is a powerful symbol to help us in our spirituality, in our spiritual growth. And all you have to do is see the symbol or imagine the symbol. And in my book, I tell a bunch of different ways to use it, to have it start working with you, to invite it to dance with you. Like if you're sitting in traffic, just do the wave on yourself and do the wave on the traffic, and it'll start to move. It just automatically happens. Can I tell you a funny story about the eclipse?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just to give a little context, the eclipse happened yesterday. We're recording the day after.
Yes. So a friend of mine is a master dowser from Scotland, and he and his wife flew over to the States to go to Vermont to see the totality at a particular place where there's a stone circle, and it's considered to be a kind of clock. So there they were, and as a dowser, he's measuring the energy lines that run through the circle. So there are two, and they are of a certain width. I don't know how wide they were, but you can measure them with the dowsing. And at some point, as the eclipse had started but was not at totality, a guy on a big fat electric bike rides right into the center of the circle. Now, there are a lot of people there. So I don't know how he got in, but anyway, rides right into the center, drops a box for tips, and starts playing the didgeridoo. And then when people said, we're trying to meditate, we're whatever it was, we're enjoying the quiet, he got very belligerent and aggressive and started carrying on, and people started getting upset. So my friend, I had we had worked with the Infinity Wave when I did it. I do group trips to places around the world every year, and last September was Scotland, and he worked with us a little bit. So anyway, he started doing the Infinity Wave on the guy as he was ranting and raving, and he immediately calmed down. He picked up his box and his didgeridoo, got on his bike, and he left. And that's the kind of thing when you, instead of resisting the guy, getting angry at his belligerence and his interruptions and all that stuff, instead of that, if you send him love and compassion, That's it. Just in the wave. You don't have to, he did. My friend didn't go, oh, I've got to get into love and compassion now. No, he just used the wave. And the guy completely, he rose to his better self with a dose of love and compassion that was very powerful. So it's relaxing, it's peacemaking, but it's also powerful to change a dynamic in a very short amount of time, and it literally an instant. So that demonstrates just, and plus, when you send it to somebody, it's coming back to you. It's, you send it out, it comes right back. So it puts you in a state of love and compassion very, very quickly.
Yeah, I know. And I think so many people just are looking for a way to help, to make a difference. And it doesn't have to be this grandiose gesture. It doesn't have to be a class. Sometimes it's just showing up and sending someone love and compassion. And this is a wonderful way to do that in your everyday. It's a I'm gonna use a water metaphor. It's a ripple effect.
Yes, it is.
There's
That's
so
it.
many ways you can go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I encourage people. The Kindle was like 115 pages, so this isn't a huge
No.
textbook. This is a very
Skinny.
approachable
Skinny.
guidebook. So I'll put a link to purchase it on Amazon. And if anyone's interested, there's little things you can do to serve, and then, like you said, it comes back to you. So, but sometimes it's easier to show up for others and then see the magic happening, because it is a paradigm shift that if you consider that you hold power, that you can be part of something. And I know that it was scary to me at first when I was like, well, I don't want to deal with anything dark, but there's nothing dark with positive, loving intention. Like it trumps anything that could be an interference. Like nothing else can be there. I'm just telling people, because if you're like, well, that just sounds a little, well, that's something that's in our past. Like that would be like Salem witch trial stuff, or, people who were persecuted because they were healers in the past. Because they knew about herbs, right? Or, we've been through some dark times in history, and those are things that we're working through, that we have to release. So I'm sending an infinity wave to any of those paradigms that you can't show up and make a difference, because you can. And you're not in danger. You're held. You're held by us, and we're standing testament. And
Yeah.
Hope's gone a huge way in showing up for herself and others. So I just appreciate this so much. And your website is spreadinfinitehope.com, and that you have so much there. If anyone's interested in finding more about Hope and what she's doing, I invite you to go there. And gosh, was there anything else? We're reaching our time.
I mean, there's a ton more, but I think we've packed it pretty well. I will say that I offer free Monday night meditations that did start in 2020, as
Nice.
a way to do something during the lockdown period. I thought, oh, okay, I got to do something. And those have continued uninterrupted ever since. They are now, I openly channel the meditation. It's not me. And we've had a series of incredible etheric teachers and groups that have come to teach us and help us continue to evolve. So everybody's welcome to join, and would love to have you.
Nice. So if that's on your website, is it under what heading is it
What
under?
people need to do is to sign up for my website,
Mhm.
and then they get my weekly blog. I write a weekly blog, and I write a weekly invitation to the meditation.
And that was at the bottom. I saw the sign up for free offers, and okay, great. Well, awesome. I'm gonna check that out. And I do have to tell you, and I want to share too. I'm involved with Sisterhood of the Rose. And the most recent meditation that the international group has put out was picturing a rose in your heart, and then your reproductive area, in your solar plexus. And you picture an infinity loop going between the hearts to connect, your heart wisdom and your womb wisdom and those energies. And it's a very powerful meditation. So if anyone's, it seems like the infinity is really at the cusp of what we're the revolution, the evolution that is happening spiritually. And so I think we're going to see more and more of this, but it just came to me that the Sister to the Rose is really connected with that. And water has always been a divine feminine. Women go to the well to get the water. Our water breaks before we give birth. I mean, there's so much that, we as women, we bathe our children. It's such a precious time. And gosh, we didn't even talk about the death doula. Maybe we should come back.
I think so.
Hope, I adored this conversation, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you, Julie. It was really a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.